So we're going to do a short lesson on populations and samples. A population, that's every single person that belongs to some category. So if you say the population of Agnes Water, that's just every single person who lives in Agnes Water. Now a census, that's when we collect data from every single person in that population. But unfortunately, it's not always practical or cost effective to basically ask or collect data from every single person. So sometimes what you need to do is you need to collect data from a sample. Okay, so a sample, that's a selection of the population. And so if we said something like, I wanted to say check, I wanted to take a census of the class. I wanted to find out whether you guys preferred strawberry or chocolate milkshake. A census would be if I checked with every single person in that class what their preference was. Now a sample, that's kind of like an idealized representation of the population. So if I checked a certain amount of people, then I could say reasonably, okay, I think that reasonably the same proportion of people would like that in the whole population. Now, in order to be able to say this, the sample size has to be big enough that it can represent the whole. And so in general, we say that the sample size should be approximately the square root of n, where n is the population size. So if we look at our class, the population, if we have 16 people. So we need to have a sample size that's at least the square root of 16, so 4, in order to really get a reasonable sample of the population. Because if you picked one person, say, if I pick one person, I say, well, that's my sample size. Well, that one person would either like one or the other. Is it a reasonable approximation of the whole population or how they feel about this question? Not really. Okay, we have to remember that different samples from the same population, if I pick a different 4 people, I will get slightly different results. So you kind of always have to remember that there is a certain amount of uncertainty when using samples to make predictions about the entire population. So let's just kind of go over what we said before. So a population, if we're talking in terms of our class, our population would be 16. So there's 16 students in the class. So if we wanted to take a census of everybody's preference of milkshake flavors, we would be asking every single person what their preference was. Then if we found that that wasn't possible, say there's often one person that's gone and we needed the answer today, we could take a sample of the population. Now that sample would have to be reasonably large. It would have to be large enough that it would give us a good indication of the population, and that reasonable size is generally considered to be the square root of n, where n is the population size. So in our case, we would do the square root of 16, so we would pick 4 people. And we always have to remember that those 4 people, it's just going to give us an indicator, but there is a certain amount of uncertainty. So if I picked 1, 2, 3, 4 people, asked them, I would always get slightly different results than if I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 people. So that sample of the population, it just gives us an indicator of what the entire population would feel. And that's the end of this lesson. If you have any questions about any of the questions that you're going to complete, just let me know and we'll go over some of them a bit more.